5 years into this thing, like jumping in and out, I was like, okay, let's look at the spreadsheet. And then real estate was the killer, right? Compared to something else, just a killer investor. And I was like, that's it. That's where my focus should be, right?
Welcome to Spur Equity's Spur Your Wealth podcast, your ultimate guide to passive income through real estate investing. Join us as we together discover the secrets of building wealth, one passive investment at a time.
From expert insights to inspiring success stories, this podcast will inspire you and empower you to take control of your family's financial future so you can live life on your own terms.
All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Spur Your Wealth podcast. We are your hosts, Param Singh and Rav Singh of Spur Equity. So on our Spur Your Wealth podcast, we aim to have successful investors and experts on our podcast to share their story and secrets in investing so we can all stand to benefit from their experience. And so today we are really fortunate to have as our featured guest, Igor Sheltonov. Igor is the founder and managing partner of a Vista Fund and is a former professional athlete who transitioned into successful entrepreneurship and real estate investment. Igor has founded and managed thriving companies and businesses in Southern California. And then in 2015, Igor ventured into real estate and established the Simis Fund in 2020. And that has, with 19 different deals under management, Simis Investment Fund is currently a limited partner in over 3,000 multifamily units. Wow. So with a cumulative value of over $480 million. So quite a lot accomplished in the last several years. That's incredible. And Igor has actually launched another fund this year, a Vista. And so we'll get into all of that and, on today's episode. So welcome, Igor. Really so happy to have you on the Spur Your Wealth podcast. Really looking forward to all of the value that you're going to add to our listeners today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, right, to share ideas and bounce around.
So let's jump right in. So I know a little bit about your background, Rav and I, and so can you tell our listeners a bit more detail about about yourself, about your background as a professional athlete, and then how you transitioned into real estate and some of the initial steps in your first fund.
Oh yeah, it was a pleasure. So I played sports since I was maybe like 6 years old, right? And then my first sport was swimming. And then maybe like 7 years into the swimming, I was like, Mom, I hate it. I don't want to do that anymore. Just, like back and forth, no people, no fighting, nothing, right? No ball. And then she said, okay, we'll find something with a ball, right? It's going to be in the water. I was like, what is that going to be like? And I tried soccer. I love it. And then basketball, I love it as well. That's my dream sport. So anyways, they put me in a water polo, which is related to swimming. And then like when I show up the first day, I was like the fastest one, the best technique. And the people like, wow, oh my goodness, look at that guy, right? So because I couldn't hold the ball, but I was swimming really well because of my swimming background. Anyways, and I just progressed really fast. And then one of the days the coach showed up and then he said, oh, you're going to be a goalie, right? And then I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be a goalie? Like really? I want to swim and then score. And then anyways, I tried it and it worked well. So I started to kind of gain a momentum, right? And then more exposure, right, to different teams. And I became Russian national team for youth, right? I was one of the people who was kind of represented the country. And then I went to Army. So since then, basically when I finished the Army, I decided to go professional water polo, which is possible in Russia, but not in the United States. It's just a college level. And soon enough, I made it to the national team. And I was going to different countries. And because I played sports, it gave me a lot of exposure to different countries. And I started to really like, oh, I like that food. I like the culture. I like how the people, I know there's different, like it's a mind-boggling experience. Back then it was like 14, probably the first time ever I left the country at 13 years old. And it was like, wow, there's ocean and there's beautiful places. and people can live on by the beach, right, on the sand. And it was just something my parents never experienced. And with that being said, so the money were coming in, right? It's just a sports. You playing sports, you don't really touch the real life. I would say the business and ecosystem of just majority of the people, how they live, and then money coming, you practice and you have fun, in the beginning of your career, and then it becomes more pressure. You want to get medals in Olympic championships, world championships, right? But anyways, there's not a lot of expenses and money coming in, so you don't know really what to do with that. You can blow it up in nightclub, right? You just go and do so. You buy a car. Like there's a lot of different things, and my first problem was, okay, what are the people actually doing with the money, right? So you blow it up, right? Do you. And I started to kind of educate myself, and that time around I bought the first property in Moscow, Russia, and I rented to the people. And the magic was, I was like, oh, I was still playing sports. I didn't do nothing. I just bought it and I rented, and the money coming in, I never touched that money. I don't need that, right? And it just accumulated. It was I felt like it's a system hack. I was like, I hacked the system. Like, what's going on here? You don't do work, so you invest it. I mean, you do work, of course, but then you invest it on the side, and it started to grow. And we were playing water polo, right? My wife playing professional basketball, and all of a sudden her brother was drafted by an NBA team from Russia, and it was like winning the Powerball ticket. It was just it's not even the hook in the system. It was just going from one planet to another planet. Like it was just a different planet, not even the part of the world like you go into the United States. I went one time, and then I was like, we were living in Manhattan Beach in Los Angeles. And the first time I remember, I just depart from the plane, and just the beautiful weather, right? The atmosphere, people. We went to the beach, and I was like, everybody in the sandals, and then the t-shirts, the shirts, right? And then I was like, oh my goodness. So I was like, people live like that. It's just impossible. Like it's just something out of my mind. Like I can't comprehend. I saw it in Italy, for example, in France, right? But in the United States, everybody was like so relaxed, so nice. I would say in California, it was so relaxed, so nice. Yeah, and then like you said, pura vida before, right? Everybody was like pura vida, and that was the great financial, I would say, lesson, because he didn't stay there for a long time. It was like 1 year and a half, I would say. Is that he had a contract with NBA, and the secret is they cut the people on year 3 before the pension kicks in and before the liability kicks in for the future. They're trying to flash the system as fast as possible. So, but then we learned the hard way liabilities and then the asset, which is cash flowing, right? Because we had a beautiful house in Manhattan Beach, which is under the name of Yaroslav. His name is Yaroslav Korlev, the brother of my sister, and then it was just a huge liability every month once we got cut from the contract, right? And financial kind of distress was pretty big time, right? And then I ended up calling. We had maybe about, let's say, 7 or 8 different accounts with the credit cards, with a line of credits, and I had to go settle. I don't speak English at all. I just landed from Russia. We decided to stay. We got a green cards very quick as extraordinary people because we had the sport background. Yeah, and then all of a sudden I got, let's say, $150,000 of debt right on my shoulders, and I don't speak English, and the perception I give you, it was like if you owe 150 grand in Russia, right, they just come and kill you. That's it, right? And then I didn't know it's different here. Like I was like, oh my goodness, and I couldn't sleep at night, right? It was like pretty tough and mind-boggling. I was like 2008, 2009, 10, 9 and 10, yeah. So and then but it was a great experience because what I did, I actually pick up the phone. I was like barely call. It's like hiding from the corner. I was like, hey, is it Citibank? Yes, it is. So it's me. Can we do this and this and anyways? And then I set the goal. I built a spreadsheet, and my goal was to settle down for 35% of the of the amount, right? And it was my first actual like financial education in the American banking system. So when I just start to negotiate the price and then the possibility of our family build the budget, right, and we stretch the budget in 5 years, how we can just comprehend and then how we can just actually close all of those problems before we build the next step, actually. So that same time, I bought 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units in Russia. So I was buying the real estate in Russia. I didn't know better, and it was just really for the saving purposes, just to really save the money, right? And it worked really well because we finished the basically all the liability problems we encountered, right, with that large contract, right? And then the next step was, okay, how do you build on top of it, right? How do you build your future? So because I learned really good lessons, and I learned how that traumatic experience, right? If you're not planning for the future, if you're not investing your money, right? Because it might happen, right? Bankruptcy or whatever, it's fine. It's part of the process. But how are you gonna fix that? That's gonna be huge. And then I start to move my real estate experience from Russia into United States. And the first thing I did, I bought the house, single family house. I was like, wow, I'm excited. I'm gonna buy a house, renovate the house, put the new kitchen, new backyard, and I rent it to the people. And all of a sudden, people left, and then a couple of months you paying that mortgage because I bought it on leverage. I was like learning about leverage, and you're not your own money, right? You got to leverage the bank money. So, and I responsible for the mortgage payments for 2 months. I was like, you can't build a wealth like that, right? There's a 300-400 cash flow, right? And then the second the person left, right, all of your cash flow is gone, right? And now you're underwater. You're underwater, right? If you got a couple of those, it's just crazy experience. So I said, you're not going to be able to. You probably need a couple lives to build the wealth, right? There's different way to do that for sure. So, and 2015, that's when I bought a house. I sold it in maybe 16. It was 5 years. So maybe in 19 in 2019. I sold it 2019. Profit maybe was 150,000 or so, and I was like, okay, now we're talking. But the problem was it's California appreciation. It's not a cash flow. And then I said, listen, I'm not in gambling, position, right? I don't want to gamble all the time because once you gamble long enough, it's going to be the same result, right? So you're going to get trapped with hands down, right? And anyways, and then I start to thinking about, okay, what's the big guys are doing? Like, what's the companies? What's the big structures are doing? And I look at the apartment complex. I was like, man, I want to buy apartment complex, and I don't know how to buy it. It's cost like $20 million to buy one in Los Angeles. I don't want to buy 5 units because it's going to be the same story, right? I want to buy something like, I don't know, 50 plus maybe. And I was like, in 2019, 20, I was like walking around the streets and just chanting every day. I want to own apartment complex. I want to buy apartment complex. Driving around the city. Oh, I want to own this thing. How many units is that? Looking at the Zillow, right? Or looking at the LoopNet, right? What's the price of those things? And then I'm meeting my partner Nikita, right? And then he was just a guest from St. Petersburg, and I'm telling him my story of owning single pieces, and I'm saying, listen, it's not working because it's a lot of management. The other difference was in Russia, people just rent, never call you. They'll fix the things by themselves. A lot of times, just minor things, and then just maybe super like emergency, they will call you, right? In America, it's different, right? They will just never call you with the big things, right? Because they're going to call something else. But then they will call you with every single small, little, tiny piece, right? I got a drip here. I was like, oh, why would you call me, right? Anyways, and then that was the experience of ours and with the partners, and we bounced the idea between each other, saying, listen, I can't do it anymore. So he was like, I can't do it anymore. Let's sell all of those pieces and let's buy apartment complexes. I was like, how are we going to do that? And then I just coming around, I had because I'm running business that same time, right? It's a basketball academy for kids, right? And my wife is a CEO because she's a professional basketball player and has a basketball background. She's a world champion as well. And she actually No, not she. It's about the business. I had a mentor, right, for that business, Michael Richmond, and I asked my mentor, like, Michael, how would you buy an apartment complex? He said, oh, there's a syndication model of it. I was like, what? Tell me more. What is that? What is that? Was it animal? Is it bird? What is that? Can you tell me? Can you show me the example? And then he started to really show me the things, and he sent me a couple operators. And I was like, oh my goodness. And it just, the idea in my eyes and my brain, like it's clicked. I was like, man, that's how I'm going to buy apartment complexes. I was like so struck with that idea. And and there's two pieces. The one, I don't want to maintain the thing. I don't want to like call my tenants, right? I don't want to wake up. I don't want to think through this thing over the night. I mean, it was pretty tough sometimes. I don't want to send the lawyer because they're not paying the rent, and it was just a lot of things right into that. And then I was always thinking, okay, what if I scale from 20 to like 45 houses? Like, what's going to be that looking like? Okay, but if you give it to property management, right, they're going to take advantage, and usually it's a lot of like expenses, which is not. It's not, yeah, it's kind of not optimized in my opinion in my world. And then I was looking for something more scalable, like in scale, right? I can use maybe other people having money, right, to do that and show them the way to do that. So basically, we got together. We said, okay, let's start investing, right? Let's go hardcore and then really gain that experience for ourselves before we launch the fund for people. And we said, okay, how many we want to get? He said, let's go get 20. I was like, let's go get 20 projects. Once we hit 20, we got mental like approval for ourselves. Now we can offer that project to the people because we've been through all the ins and outs, and then we know exactly what the asset class looks like, what's the operators actually, because someone in pain, someone not paying, and stuff like that. So basically one by one. So we start with single family. Oh, sorry, we start with California. The first two projects was in California. So the one project was just a hotel during the COVID pandemic, right? They want to get rid of the place because it was just under occupied. And there's two older owners, one of them 89, the other one 91. They want to get rid of the place. The operator came in and he said, we're going to put like a force house, like a force, not force, the housing units, right? For the professionals, for the young people. And it's Oakland, California. It's a pretty busy place. I said, this is just a brilliant idea. It's never going to be affordable for the young people to live in the places like San Francisco. They're going to always move to Oakland and even more maybe north. And I said, this is a beautiful location. I've been there multiple times. And the conversion was a great idea. But the first problem was, okay, once they get into the construction and they need to reinforce the walls, they need to reinforce the concrete, the budget went up from 3.5 million, right, to 8.5 million construction cost, right, just remodeling of the building because of the size of the project and because of the proximity to the ocean, because the local government came in and said, listen, this is the old building, we don't have, you have to reinforce the things because it's going to be like very, very, dramatic, right? If something hits from the water, whatever, typhoon or rains or something. So that was my first experience, right? Not pleasant, not fun, but we went down there, we talked to operator, we went through the building, right? We just really took a time and research what's the syndication, research what type of people we invest, because by the end of the day, you invest in the person, like in people and the team, right? Then they were doing a great job. It's actually Rise Capital. They were doing a great job, a local present, very connected to local government, and I trust them on that project. The second was, and again, for us was in the mind, let's build the experience. So that's going to be remodeling building, the other one existing. So let's get in both of them. Let's not put the money in one, right? One operator, one idea, but let's really explore their market. What does that look like, right?
So Igor, let me ask you a quick question, because I know you're about to let us know about the second deal that you got into. But once again, I wanted to just say, you have so much experience, life experience that you've gone through, moving to a different country, right? I mean, from Russia coming here, he came here because of opportunity, right? Param and I were just talking about with somebody else earlier that there's some people that just think and the idea is done after that. They don't take any action, right? You've gone ahead and not only have you done all this work, but you've moved to a different country where you didn't speak the language, you don't know anything about the culture, and now you're doing so much work there. So congrats to you on that, on that success itself, right? Because that is not easy. That is not something which everybody can do or think they can do, and you did it, right? And the second thing I was going to tell you was, or ask you, was that, with the journey, when you were starting, even with the debt that you were in and the houses that you bought, and all, what type of help was available to you? What type of were parents helping, or were friends helping? I mean, how were you navigating that journey there, where you were in debt and you didn't know what to do? How do you get out? How'd you get out of it?
You know what? It's a good question, right? That it was the high level of stress, right? And then maybe day after day, because it's a long process as well. It took me like a couple of years or so. And it was actually family. So, and when I'm talking about, it's everybody in the family. So the brother, which used to be in the NBA, he took part of it, right? So my wife took a big part of it. So her parents took a huge part of it, supporting us. And then it took like an effort from everybody, like, because we were working as a hell day and night. I don't remember myself the first probably 6 years of my life in the United States. I just don't remember what I did. I just were working and working, like grinding the things, like, and from the language to financial education, right? And I feel like it's collective effort, and we were saving like a hell as well. So we were like saving every single dollar, right, just to make sure we build that foundation, which is never gonna crack, right? So, and like I said, it took probably like a family, like a strong family, to push it through.
A
That's
couple of
amazing,
things that
yeah.
I liked about, I mean, that was quite a lot to unpack, right? But the few things that I liked about your story that really that speak out to me is, one, you had the foresight when you were playing professional sports, and like you were saying, money was coming in. What do I do with this money? And a lot of people, even in IT, even in professional jobs, when they get a pay raise, or they get a bonus, or they get a anything, they bump up their lifestyle, right? They climb that lifestyle. Whereas someone like you're like, hey, this money's coming in. How can I use this to actually propel myself forward, right? So you had this aha moment. You invested in an apartment in Russia, and then you said it yourself. You're like, whoa, I hacked the system somehow, right? Like, that was an aha moment, that like, oh, I can invest something, and now I can still go do what I normally do. I can still go play professional sports, but this thing that I just invested in is now making me money. So rather than having that temptation of like, hey, let me live beyond my means, or let me raise my lifestyle, you went and invested, and that was like your first aha moment. And then I liked in your story that you had several aha moments, like when you came to the States, and then leverage and bought your first house, and then you started looking at apartment buildings and like syndication. So there was all these like learnings along the way that you had, these aha moments. But to what Rav said, like, you didn't just take that information and just kind of sit with it. You actioned it. You started to jump in and say, hey, I have this aha moment, I have this opportunity. How do I turn that into action? And so that's really amazing that you were able to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Param. I think actually the huge part of it was, I'm talking about on the real estate side, because as I was so passionate about teaching kids first, right? I would never think about money and compensation. Like, this is just the last thing I was thinking about, right? And people feel it. You can't cheat anybody, right? They feel whatever you hiding, right? They'll find it. And then people were feeling, I mean, they feel in the good things as well, right? And they feel it, right? Because I was like giving 100%, like 120% every time I show up, right? And then when I came across the real estate, the bigger pockets pop up. I don't know if you remember that platform. It was like huge 2015, 16, 17. They start to gain the momentum. Was one of the first platforms, like a big time, right? When you go on YouTube, right? You go on the Bigger Pockets itself, right, to the website. You can chat to the people. You can get membership there. So, and I was listening every single time, every single day after work, right? I can just like I should go up and back in my, let's say, house or and take care of it. And I was just listening for that podcast. I can't just even stop listening for the pod and the ideas and the stories. So, and that's why I'm on the podcast right now, because some of the people, they turn my thinking, they turn my mind around. So they were, listen, you might be in the car sitting right now, but I took that action. Like yesterday, I took that action. Would you take that action tomorrow, right? And then, so they inspired me, right? By just watching those podcasts, right? Like day in and out, right? I was watching maybe 2, 3 a day sometimes, just to inspire myself more and more. So to take that action, and it was like super helpful.
I think that's a journey that everybody has gone through, especially in real estate, where if we started 5-6 years ago, there's some things that have played a big role in our development, and bigger pockets is one of them. We have listened to, we have also read, and we have connected with so many people in the same mindset, and you end up talking to people that you want to be like,
Yeah.
right? You want to learn from, you want to do business with, and so that platform played a huge role in our development also.
Yeah, it was just a big part of it. Like
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's just a,
Right.
I don't know, it's like a world, right? The world book, I would say, right? It's
Yeah,
a
that's right.
best world
Yeah.
seller.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now you were saying regarding your second deal or your second fund, let's continue with that, because I know I had interrupted you with that thought process. So tell us, what happened with the second big deal that you were working on.
Yeah, and the second deal was like very close. It's the same company, was raised capital, and it was existing deal. And we felt the difference between, okay, there's existing building was a little bit of just a paint and something, right? And the cash flowing immediately. And there's a risk of, okay, going deep onto the steps, right? And changing the layout of the building, and then some of the codes even, right? And then reinforcing the things. And that was a really good experience. So, and we never got into the land development, right? We said, okay, let's get the next one. It was Market Space Capital in Texas, right? And we said, oh, let's get the ground up like development building, right? And we invested in that one, and then we just look at the project and look at the process of that. And it was a lot of rains back then. Anyways, that was just delay, huge, like a big time delay as well. So, and we start to recognize the opportunities. Oh, there's a lot more risk. Yeah, if you're willing to risk your money, there is a market for that. But we want to probably stick more to existing buildings, maybe just under occupied, under managed and stuff like that. And we start to kind of line up our funds of where we want to be in like 2 years from now, right? And then the next deal came over, right? And we started to kind of test the different states. We said, okay, we on the East Coast, we on the West Coast. Okay, let's start to separate those two different things, because it's like, again, it's might be two different countries sometimes, right? Because we start to invest in Virginia, right? There's a group called Fairwind Capital. There was 2 military guys, actually 3 of them. 2 of them were still active military, just imagine, and they were doing full-time syndication, right? Yeah, like in the system as well. And then basically having my entrepreneur background, so there's a lot of stories about when franchise bought by a military guy, they follow the franchise structure, and it's the best franchise, and usually they buy out the franchisee in a couple of years from that. So, and then I use that my experience is, okay, if this is military guys and they usually follow the structure, they usually just taught to be, on point and be very disciplined and stuff, and so I'm trusting them. I'm trusting them on that, and they still in army, so they don't cheat. They tell the people in army, we're in army, but we're gonna be like retiring in a couple of months. So we put the money with them, and it was half and half building. It's 48 units, and half of them were boarded with the boards, right, and the other occupied, right. And we said this is a great opportunity. So what I'm trying to go with that story, so we took like a different asset classes, the storage facilities, and we really Yeah, like really to understand what's the market looks like and what's going to be the best product for the investors then back after that. I think I'm going to
That's
stop
great. No,
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
and so you primarily looked at, like you said, multifamily, existing, and some kind of rehab, and recognizing there's different risk profiles. I think I also read that you looked at self storage, right, as an asset class. So both of those are like have been historically really solid, right? So one question I have, and I ask a lot of our folks that we meet is, you know, we've learned a lot along the way. We've failed some, the quicker you fail, the quicker you can correct, right? And so, Rav and I also, we started, in single family, for example. We started there. We moved into small multifamily, moved into large multifamily, and grew from that perspective. And every step of the way gave us a lot of knowledge and a lot of correction as to like where we want to see ourselves. So looking at your story, I'm curious. What would you give an advice to somebody who's starting out, in the same way that you did, do so that potentially they can learn from your experience, maybe skip a few steps, right? Because you're an LP with a fund in a lot of different units now versus, some of the things that you were doing with like single family or like small multifamily on your own and driving around and looking on Zillow and things like that. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's like, hey, I want to start, right, doing real estate? Where should I look?
I wouldn't say it's an advice. It's going to be my experience share. So what I experienced, the first problem, there's no shiny objects. Like don't jump into the things, which is, and that was my biggest problem in the beginning. So I was like, jump into this, into that, and like it just. And 5 years into this thing, like jumping in and out, I was like, okay, let's look at the spreadsheet. And then real estate was the killer, right, compared to something else. Just a killer investor. And I was like, that's it. That's where my focus should be, right? Using the 80-20 principle, I said, listen, you can spend 20% of your time just for fun. Don't expect the return. For fun, throw the money there if you want to. If you got some tension, right, of that things. Because there's sometimes a tension of the money, right? Okay, throw the 20. If it works, it works, right? But then 80% of your time should be focused on the most important piece, real estate. And I shifted my mind. It was a huge difference, right? Huge change, right? The net worth growth and stuff like that. And then the second thing was, I think the being around the right people, it's huge. And I was never... No, I would say I was actually trying to save money, not go into this mastermind, this that group, and blah blah blah. And then once I removed that tension, I said, and I opened my mind, saying, listen, if they claiming to be the best capital raisers, right? So if you're going to be part of it for a year, you're going to make a huge progress, right? Applying your action, right? If you action person, right? If you're taking action, being around the right people, like again, if you want to be banker, go and hang out around bankers. So, and I start to do that more and more, right? And again, the ideas bouncing around the group of people together, it's worth like $100,000 easily for yourself, right? And then that was my just a second experience share when I started to really saying, okay, do I want to go to the nightclub or I want to go to the mastermind? So, and this is a big difference, right? With the outcome of that action, right? And I start to really focus on the things where I want to be and asking people who is 5 years ahead of me, like not who is behind me, like but who is 5 years ahead of me, and listen to just this people and their experience shares.
Sure. And I think with this networking, with this meeting of the mind, so to speak, where you're talking to people that are like-minded, to me at least, it gives me positive energy. It gives me hope to be like them, to aspire to be like them, right? And so you want to hang out with people that you can learn from, you can grow from, and then one day hopefully you can partner with. And so, but you will not know that sitting behind a desk or sitting behind, an office. You have to go out and meet people. So I think that's great. We believe in the same thing. I wanted to, Igor, find out from you in regards to, since you work on the LP side for the most part, where you are raise master, you're raising capital from you, your family, your investors. How deep have you gone in regards to that? Are you taking money from funds, from other funds? Are you taking money from other private equity sources, or is it just friends and family? Tell us a little bit about your investor base, and because ultimately they will invest in you because they know you, right? And so, how are you going to the next level, and where are you going to the next level?
Yeah, as of right now, just the friends and family and just retail investors. Probably like I would say we're 2-3 steps away from friends and family. Like the people know me and they trust me, and I feel like it's the best way to build that base, right? Because otherwise you're going to be knocking the doors and people are like, who's that guy?
Who are
like,
you?
I don't
Right.
understand. Like, what are you trying to do even, right? But then the next step, it's just scaling through what we're doing right now, actually, just a podcasting and going out and speaking and be part of the different events. And this is just my strategy for now.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
And
when you're talking about, and I know we spoke earlier, and I think I mentioned in the intro as well that you are one of the few that are actively recruiting, or you have a network base or an investor base that's in the U.S., but you're also taking international investors. Can you talk to us about how that's been and how that's evolved, and what kind of mechanisms you're using to allow for international folks to invest in real estate in the U.S.?
Yeah, it used to be, and again, I feel like right now it's shifted, and one of the huge things was just Russia, and then what happened in Russia. Because I remember my first steps, and I was like on the phone with people, and we were actually. It was a lot, like it was huge interest. I would touch one thing. It was huge interest. The reason why every 5 years you will diminish your rubles. If you're in rubles, you'll diminish your net worth by just currency exchange rate spike, right? Because like, and again, I don't even want to hold my net worth in dollars. Like you give me dollars, I don't want to take those, right? I would rather be in the like stronger asset, which is correlate, like growing, right, against the US dollar. Not to talk about those currency who's like way lagging right behind that US dollar currency, right? And then when you're talking to Russian people, they're saying, listen, by you just converting to US dollar and sending money to United States, it's a 50% growth 5 years from now. If you grew that money by 50%, like you just counted how much is that right now. So basically it's a double. You're not going to be wrong, right? Even so you didn't get any returns, you still won, right? So just recently it went from 56 to 94. 56 to 94, you just count the difference, right? If you convert the money at 56 and then you getting this transfer back and you convert it back to 96, right? How much more money you got. So anyways, this is one big problem. And then you're talking about Argentina, you're talking about different countries in South America, right, as well. So, and then we start to talk to people. And it's funny story, right? We're in the Big Bear, right, on the phone. I'm talking to an investor and saying, listen, this is a great deal. So we got a deal, I don't know, in Dallas, I think. And then I'm saying, just send the money, right? So we're going to invest. It's going to close about a couple of weeks from now. And he's telling me, oh, what if the ACH is going to block? I was like, what do you mean? It's impossible. Like, he said, what if the banks stop transferring money back and forth? I was like, listen, we're in the 20th century. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And then the next day, the war started. The next freaking day. I just remember as of today, like, and then the next day, and everything what he said, like literally everything what he said, right? And it was actually my one of my relatives who owns a big factory. So everything what he said happened, and I was like, oh my, how is that possible? And all of that idea just crashed immediately, right? So because we had a line of people who was like, they understood what we're doing, they absolutely love the idea of having the currency, right, United States dollar, but not the ruble, which is going to be diminishing every single year, right? So, but then it just stopped, and then we focused just on U.S. investors.
Okay. So,
And the idea was my partner leave in St. Petersburg. He
okay.
left back then. Now he got the green card and he moved. So, but he was still living there, and he has a big company. So he has a big network of people who actually own companies, right? And they businessmen, and they understand investing really well.
Excellent. So, I know we're coming short on time here, but I do want to ask you a question on kind of the future. Where do you see, what do you get excited about, right? So it's a different economy, it's a different world than it was 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, whatever. But what still gets you excited about real estate investing? What opportunities, what projects, what asset classes? Tell me what gets you excited about the future of real estate investing.
When you asked that question, I was like in my head, I was like about my kids and how they're gonna look like in 10 years. So that was my first.
That's great.
That's what I'm
That's
really
wonderful.
excited about. 'Cause I have 3 kids, and yeah, that's for sure. But then on the real estate side, you know what? It's one of the reasons I'm in real estate, because it's safe, right? Like getting excited means you start to gamble, right? And I tend to think about real estate. I'm not getting excited about real estate, right? I just want it to be working as it was working 2,000 years ago, right? Because people need to leave to place, right? And then I don't want to get excited about real estate. I just want it to be safe investment and keep working as it was working 2,000 years ago, right? And this is the reason I'm in real estate. So where I'm getting excited about is how we grow our company by just, investor base, and how we can actually support the projects. Because again, going to Auckland, one of my things was there's a conversion of the community happening. And that company, like Rise Capital, they taken a huge part of converting old buildings into something livable and people can actually use. And this is, I got some good goosebumps. So this is what I'm getting excited about, right? Because it used to be like an old factory. Nobody use it. It's just a homeless, and then it's just all cracked windows. And then all of a sudden now it's art house, and it's beautiful. It's painted. It's just remodeled, right? And people start to use and do businesses, and it just rejuvenate the city, right? This is what I'm getting excited about.
That's wonderful.
That's
wonderful.
wonderful.
I think we have felt that same. I've felt those same goosebumps myself, right? So like, especially when we go in and take something like we've done a few projects in Phoenix, for example, where we've done exactly that. We've done hotel conversions where there's an old hotel, convert it into multifamily. Now we have families living there, and then we rejuvenate the pool. We put in a playground. We put in a dog park. And now when we go to those apartments, we see kids running around. We see they're playing with their dogs. They're having fun in the pool. So yeah, I mean those things where we're coincidentally or appropriately, we named those properties in Phoenix Elevate. And so our idea was we're elevating that area. We're rejuvenating it. We're elevating the lifestyle of the people that are living there. So it's moving away from, kind of like drab, kind of apartments where, you have slumlords, but now you have these, upgraded apartments with, families that feel safe in those neighborhoods. So we feel those same exact goosebumps when we do projects like that and rejuvenate, the areas that we invest in.
Yeah.
I think real estate can give you that, right? I mean, real estate as a if you look at it as an opportunity or as a business, it can give you that opportunity to give back. We are in this position where, as you said, elevating somebody's lifestyle. Why not, right? I mean, yes, business is on its own where we know this is our value add plan and this is the business plan. But on the other hand, if we can elevate somebody's lifestyle and give back to the community, give back to the neighborhood, give back to a certain constituency, how awesome is that in terms of fulfilling a life by you're designing that life, right? You're not just dreaming it anymore. It's something that you're giving back to the world. So that's something that really drives us. It's a passion that we have, and that's why Param and I always talk about that for us. And we're also a lot of times LP investors investing into a bigger fund, or just we want to be a lifestyle investor, just so we can do the other things in life. Just either it's family or community or service or whatever that might be, while still pursuing our passion on the real estate side. So I think it's amazing to have that connection with you and understand, what drives you, what your passion is towards not just real estate, but just life in general.
Yeah. So one of the things I really love, it's like, imagine Jeff Bezos wake up in the morning and he's like, oh, we got how many billion? 150 billion. So keep working. Let's go. We need 200 billion. Like, really? So not really. You don't need $200 billion, right? I mean, you do, but it's not the passion about, right? The company is like, okay, let's fly to the moon, right? This is the next kind of, it's like beyond your life, right? So they got, I mean, again, I'm not comparing myself, but Elon Musk, they have a goals which is way beyond their lifespan, right? So they want to reach somewhere nobody's going to be able to reach, just because they have that financial kind of freedom, right? I'm not saying probably the base, right? They can just jump off of that base to different avenues, right? And explore, research, and do the stuff for humanity as well. So on the real estate, what I'm trying to say is, on the real estate level, right? If we all make money, yeah, that's great. But then if we all trying to convert and make that community just a little bit better, just 1% better, right? So, okay, 10% better, right? So, and then it's going to exponentially change the whole district, right? It's going to change the city, right? Within like 10 years, right? And then if you could be part of it, and you can just put extra money you don't need for your family, right? And put it to use, and everybody will benefit from that. The whole idea of that is just incredible.
And that's what drove us to real estate as well, because it is, and the people that we surround ourselves with have that same sort of mindset. It's the idea of abundance, right? So, as a buyer, as a seller, you're actually partners, right? In kind of transitioning these things. And then at the same time, you can make money while still impacting positively the people that live in that. So it's a win-win-win. So it's like, it's amazing. And that's why we like real estate. And I also, I want to go back to, I worked for a guy, very humble boss that I had for a long time. And yes, we're in business to make money, but his attitude to his customers and to his employees was, if you take care of the needs of your customers and you take care of the needs of your employees, the money will follow. Business will improve. And Rav and I take that same, with our partners, take that same mentality to the real estate that we buy, that if we take care of the needs of our residents and our employees, business is going to grow, right? So that you have that positive intent. And this is one of the only businesses that allows us to do that, in a win-win-win scenario, where you're not shortchanging somebody else to be able to make more for yourself. Like, everybody can actually, win. Exactly. So I love that about real estate. So as we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to share with the listeners how they can get in touch with you. But before that as well, any last kind of, it's all about giving back and giving advice. And so just your life experience, if you can share some experience, some valuable lesson that someone is listening and trying to get started, they can get some inspiration from you and your story, if you want to share that. And then also share how they can get in touch with you, through your website or your social media, so they can reach out to you directly.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a really good thing I like about, 'cause there's a lot of times anyways, like, let's start like this. The issues will overcome. They will come, no matter what, right? And then once you focus on issue and you go down that black rabbit hole, right? It's just there's no solution, right? So you always on a solution, right? You get the issue first, but you really focus your mind on how to, and never shut it down by I can't, or it's impossible, right? So it's always there's always a white light on that other side, right? And this is what I see all the time, because there's a lot of issues coming in every single day, right? And then when you focus on solution, there's different life right in front of you. So that's one. The second one, so how to get in touch with me, it's ivistafund.com, right? It's a website, and you can fill out the form. And the secondly, it's my email, igor@avistafund.com. You can just reach out and send me a message, and I'm going to be happy to connect with you guys and schedule a call.
Great. Thank you so much. So Igor, thank you so much for sharing your time and your story with us. Really inspiring to see what you've done. Surrounding yourself with people that keep you going and also taking action. So really, congratulations on all your success. So for the listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Spur Your Wealth podcast. Again, we are Param Singh and Rav Singh from Spur Equity. Remember, your journey to financial freedom begins with knowledge and action. Where knowledge is power,
But action is superpower. So until next time, happy investing.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Spur Your Wealth podcast. We hope you enjoyed the valuable insights and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and stay updated on future episodes filled with actionable tips and strategies.
if you want more information about our investment projects, visit us at spurequity.com. If you have an inspiring story to share and would like to be a guest on our podcast, email us at podcast@spurequity.com. Until next time, happy investing.